Like a few people in this sub, I'm not actually tech support but de facto support because I can plug a USB in first time. Okay, I lie, no one can do that, and because I know enough to get myself into trouble and some fancy Google search terms to get myself out of trouble. I don't actually have a budget for IT equipment, but I can pretty much buy what I need, and occasionally want, if I have reasonable justification for it. I just need the owner to sign off on it, and to be fair, he rarely says no because he knows I do things on as small a cost as possible. Every day I need to print just over 100 pages to a printer at the other end of the office, only a handful of meters away, but as the printer has a maximum of 150 pages I need to check it's got paper each time. The young lady who works right next to the printer tells me to just ask her to check the paper level. Asking to check the paper level each day gets boring, so I rename the printer Kraken. Now instead of asking her to check the paper level, I can ask her to ready the Kraken. We're weird and it makes us smile. Owner overhears us one day as I yell ready the Kraken. The owner has a good sense of humor and sends me an email. I don't remember signing off on a Kraken. Please can you send me the initial outlay, running costs, and justification for a Kraken? Please also remember to submit the VAT receipt for a Kraken. Anticlimactic update. I talked to the user this morning. She says she never restarted and just signed out as usual. Furthermore, both receptionists were having trouble with the scheduling software, which likely indicates either a slow connection or that the vendor was having issues yesterday. So, I still have yet to actually see a user who thinks that the monitor is the computer. Original story. I work IT at a small medical practice. One of our receptionists was complaining that the scheduling software was being slow and doing strange things. I wasn't in my office at the time, but the receptionist found one of the administrative assistants, who suggested that she restart her PC. The assistant alerted me to the complaint, and I concurred that a reboot would probably solve it. On my way out today, I stopped by the front desk, logged in as administrator, went to Task Manager, and found that the uptime was 4 days, 23 hours and counting. Obviously, it wasn't actually rebooted. So, tomorrow, I'm going to ask her to show me how she restarts the computer. Perhaps she just didn't restart it because somebody showed up at the desk right after she got back, or perhaps I have encountered my first user who thinks that the monitor is the computer. If anybody is even remotely interested, I'll update the post. I'm going to use a fun analogy in place of equipment details as my industry is very specialized. I'm aware that I'm a stereotype and I don't care. I am on a team of technicians who provide technical training and troubleshooting support to my company's dealerships nationwide and internationally. Through a mix of giving polite greetings to the wrong people and solving riddles nobody else could, I have become the nation's leading expert on a product we will call the Rings of Power. A few years ago I was sitting at my desk minding my own business and doing absolutely nothing unexpected like the good hobbit I am. Then Gandalf decides it's time for an effing dwarf rave. Gandalf is the head of another department that does all of the custom design and sales for the Rings of Power. He is very tall, always wears a hat, and is exceptionally competent at what he does. He has a decent understanding of how the Rings of Power work, but doesn't know all of the technical subtleties. However, this was the day he decided to trust Saruman. Apparently a customer wanted to mash 2 receivers into one system and control them from a single control panel, which we will call the lesser rings, and the one ring which rules them all. I thought for a moment on this and determined that it would technically be possible, but it would be difficult to do as you would have switch a lot of files and transfer power all in a very specific order while waiting an unspecified amount of time between steps. Otherwise there would be chaos everywhere and war would come to Middle-earth. This whole process would have no diagnostics or confirmation that it actually worked until you turn everything back on again. The Rings of Power simply weren't designed to work this way. This maddening process was also we could make the one ring switch its attention from one lesser ring to the other while making sure the unmonitored lesser ring didn't just start going crazy and attracting dragons while it was unsupervised. I said, for the love of the Valar, don't sell that monstrosity. Gandalf gets a funny look and says it's already been sold and is getting loaded onto the truck now. After some internal screaming, I ask him which dealer gets to install the abomination. To make the day even better, it's going to a guy we'll call Glowing. He is about as patient and easy to anger as any dwarf in an elven dungeon. At the very least he is competent with the technical stuff. I spend the rest of the day drawing up the diagrams for power switching relays and instructions for the whole switching process. I document it, make physical copies, and generally try to make this as understandable as possible, as I'm the only person outside of Celebrimbor, the original creator of the Rings of Power, who can make this work. I sent it all to Gloin so he can finish the installation. This fix is pretty janky and is going to be a pain whenever troubleshooting time comes someday in the future. As you can expect, there were issues with the initial startup. They had to move a single wire and then it worked perfectly. Made you suspect the worst. The downside was that I now had to spend a few hours about once a month running the owner through the complicated switching procedure. My department isn't supposed to speak to end users at all, but I'm the only person east of the sea and west of the Lonely Mountain who knows how this thing works. This goes on for a few years before Sauron rises again and pitches the world into war. The lesser rings are no longer responding the One Ring. This didn't make a lot of sense, as I had talked to the owner a few days before for another operation lesson. It had still been working flawlessly. Sure enough, the Ring of Power wasn't able to bend its full will on the lesser rings individually anymore. So I call up Gimli, the son of Gloin, to go check things out. Gimli doesn't have the technical expertise of his father, but he is still fairly competent. We end up finding a very important fuse was missing. Not a bad fuse, a missing fuse. It turns out the owner thought it was an extra and borrowed it to fix something else. One fuse replacement later and the One Ring is back to ruling them all. It's only a matter of time until the One Ring goes into Mount Doom, blows up and kills us all, but that's not today. 3 years ago, I joined a company as associate network administrator. The pay was pretty lousy, but I was unemployed at the time and I hate ramen. This is a quasi-tech company with the sole distributor rights for a massive printer company that everyone hates, but every business on the planet has or has had one of their printers. Selling said printers means also servicing said printers. I was brought in with the above job title but expected to fix said demon printers too. 1 month after I joined the company, a guy in my department quit. His main role: provide third-party tech support for a local bank's credit card terminals. Guess who got stuck with the role? 3 years later, I only vaguely know the names of the software we use internally and have a general idea of what our server room looks like. We have one IT guy. He shares no knowledge and pretty much just wants to do everything himself. But he has to go on vacation sometime, doesn't he? Cue today's story. 2 days before IT guy goes on vacation, my boss informs me that I'm to take over whilst he's gone. WTF? Anyway, I spend the next 2 days begging him to show me stuff. I was taken into the server room where he pointed to servers, vaguely mentioned what they're for, gave my user account admin access, and poof, he was gone. Week 1 rolls around. Issues come up, but I do have experience, so I muddle through. I occasionally have to text IT guy about small things, but I'm handling it. Until it's announced that a hurricane is coming our way. I'm in the Caribbean. Shit. Manglement has a meeting, tell me to shut off everything, was already planning to do that, and they tell the users to unplug all their equipment and place any towers that are currently on the floor, on their desks. I'm not sure how putting a tower on your desk when you're on the 2nd floor is going to save it. If anything, water comes through your ceiling and takes the machine out anyway, but whatever, Manglement will mangle. The storm blows through, lots of damage to property, but the island mostly lives to see another day. It's the weekend, so I go in on Saturday, bring all the servers back online, and wait for Monday. And here, folks, is where things get crazy. These are just a few of the problems I had to solve before 10 a.m. 1. My phone isn't working, walk upstairs, plug network cable into phone. 2. My computer has no internet connection, walk back upstairs, plug network cable into computer. 3. The printer isn't working, walk upstairs again, turn on the power switch for the printer. 4. My computer isn't powering on, walk upstairs again, turn on the power switch for computer. 5. I can't hear anything from my phone, walk 5 minutes to the warehouse to restart a phone after asking them to do it and they said that they had. Users lie. 6. I can't log into my email, walk upstairs, Put in the password I just told her that I had set it to and she insisted wasn't working. New employee, maybe she's nervous, whatever. And the real problem is two users can't get a network connection. Their ports under the desks are labeled so should be easy to find them on the switch, right? Well, true for the first user. Pulled her cable from the switch, stuffed it in a different port, phone lights up. At this point I don't care to know why it wasn't working, I don't even have access to log into the switches. The second user, I find her port on the punch-down block. It's empty. Oh boy. Maybe IT guy had to troubleshoot at some point, moved her connection, and didn't remember to relabel. This is going to hurt. Grab my tracer, dead battery. Scream that the warehouse has no batteries. Boss runs across the street to the hardware store to get me one. I may or may not have threatened to quit whilst asking for a battery. After much struggling in a tight spot that Ant-Man would struggle in, I find her connection ... leading to the empty port. Yes, her cable was punched into the port on the block that had no connection going to a switch ... WTF. Go back to the user's desk, crawl around under there looking for another port cause there has to be one, right? 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 Nope. None. Ask the user if she was recently moved to that desk. Nope, been there months. Ask if she's sure that this is where her cable was connected. Yup, that's where she unplugged it from before the hurricane. What? I even looked around under her neighbor's desks, maybe her cable was plugged under one of those with an extra port. Nope. Everybody has only one. At this point, I'm cursing everyone who calls asking for my help, under my breath. I find a patch cable, humor myself, and plug the phantom port into a switch, any switch. Guess what? Phone lights up. WTF? How was she even working? At this point, I stopped caring about how or why. It's now midday and I have had it, so I leave for lunch. Edit to add a piece I forgot. After lunch, I come back. There's an email waiting for me with a problem I've never seen. Ask IT guy, he says check Ziz server. I check, looks like I forgot to power this one on. Whoops. And #X200B,